Hi, I'm Judy. Welcome to Go with Yin Yoga. Today I have a sort of mini masterclass on saddle pose where I'm just offering variations. The first thing I want you to know is you should grab a lot of props. Bolster, blanket or blankets, a block. I'm sitting on one right now. And I also want you to know that in a lot of bodies, this saddle pose is difficult. It may bring too much sensation into your body. Please, please, please listen to your body. If you find saddle pose doesn't feel right for you, and you may not, you may love saddle pose. But if it's not for you, I'm also going to offer you these variations. Sphinx pose is one of the first ones. Bandit wants to say hi. You can also do, buddy, you're not helping. You can also do Sphinx pose. I will demo that right now. Woo, buddy, it's okay. It's okay. So you come down onto your forearms. You don't really want your feet on a bolster, but it's there, so I'm not going to worry about it. You come down onto your forearm. Your feet are on the mat. And another variation I really like that I think does stand in well for saddle pose is to bend one leg, reach back, either with your hand or strap, and grab onto wherever feels right in your foot. This is going to target your lower back, your hip flexors a bit, and your quads. And that is the places we are looking for sensation today. So go ahead and sit up on a block if you have one, or maybe a bolster. And let's begin to transition into our time on the mat. Allow your body to relax. If it feels safe and comfortable for you, close your eyes. Begin to breathe in and out through your nose. Maybe set an intention for the next half hour or so. Maybe that is, I honor my body. And if it doesn't feel right in my body today, I'm not going to do saddle pose, or I'll try some of the variation and use some props. Maybe that is, I'm open and receptive to whatever happens in this class. And just continue to breathe in and out through your nose. Today is not a regular Yin Yoga class. It is going to be an exploration of saddle pose, and I'm going to give you a variety of variations. I do want to say, whenever it gets too much, because we're doing a lot of this, go ahead and take a little break. You can be in Savasana, you can be in child's pose, you can be on your back with your knees coming into your chest, wind pose. And that will just allow your low back to release some tension. So normally we're only doing this for 3 minutes, and because we're exploring a lot of different variations today, you may spend more time in saddle pose than you're really comfortable with. I certainly am going to spend more time in saddle pose than I'm probably comfortable with. Okay, let's come into half saddle pose, and we're going to use a block to begin with. So you have your block, and you can take it so that it is about hip width apart. And just go ahead and sit onto it. So basically right now you are in hero pose, as it's known in Hatha yoga, because our legs are, the block is, our legs are between our heels, our hips. Something is between our heels. Our heels are coming into our hips for the most part, and we're just sitting up to begin with. And actually, I got ahead of myself. We really want to start in half. saddle pose. And take one leg and bend it. The other leg can be knee bent. And the other leg could also be stretched out. You can also be sitting onto this heel if that's comfortable for you. In which case you probably want your block to be vertically on the mat. Let me show that. So in this case, you want your block this way on the mat. So you can see. And your ankles are coming into the block and you're sitting back onto your heels. And this is what's really known as thunderbolt pose. And you can take one leg again, bend one knee, come into half saddle pose. And then go ahead and just gently let yourself fall to the leg that is not bent back. And we're going to go to the second side. So fall to the other side and allow that leg to either come out, see how that's out, where my heel is next to the hip, or you can be sitting back on it, whatever feels right in your body. You can take a blanket between your hamstring and your calf. That may make this feel a bit more comfortable for you as well. And from here, we're going to move into full saddle pose using the block. And I'm going to show reclined, at least a little bit reclined. So you can do that with the half saddle pose as well. You can be reclining a little back. You can go like this a little bit. You can take your elbows onto a bolster behind you. And the target area is our quads, tops of our thighs, our low back, our hip flexors a little bit. And then roll towards the bent leg. And for now, let's go ahead and let our legs be in front of us. And just take a few breaths here. And notice if you feel any tingling. Okay, so we're going to come into full saddle. To begin, come off of your block and then whichever way feels right for you, block horizontal, block vertical. I prefer to be sitting on my heels. You may prefer to have your heels out further. Sitting on your heels is probably going to get more into your low back when you recline. And sitting between your heels, so your heels are next to your hips, may get more into the top of your thighs, your quads. And you can stay just like this. Or you can begin to allow yourself to lean back. And you're going to feel sensation along the top of your thighs, your quads, and somewhat along your ankles, of course, and along your knees. Now, one of the things you can do, like I said, you can take a blanket and you can take that between your legs. That may help with the sensation in your knees. And if your ankles are bothering you, you'd have to move your block, but you can also put a rolled up blanket underneath your ankles. And if you want to go further into the pose, you can come down onto your elbows on a bolster. That's all I'm going to do today. Or without a bolster, and you can just come right down onto the mat. And that is, for me anyway, a whole lot of sensation. And so as I mentioned, saddle is getting into our spleen and stomach meridians. And the emotion that is associated with those is anxiety and worry. So if you need to if you've been feeling anxious, especially as we change seasons, this is actually a good pose to do, but there are other ones available, as I mentioned in the beginning. Couple more breaths here. And then slowly begin to push into your elbows. Lean over towards one side. Coming on up. And remove the block. And let's all take a little break in Savasana before we move on to saddle without the block. But we will use a bolster or some blankets if you'd like. Do you feel any tingling in your legs? Where do you feel it, if you do? And last breath. Bend your knees. Bring the soles of your feet to the mat. Slowly and gently roll over to one side. And let's come up into half saddle on the mat. So in this case, you can do sitting on your heel without using the block, but it's awkward. I don't know. I guess it depends on your body. For my body, this does not really feel all that great. Now you can come back off there. You can take a blanket and take that bent leg onto the blanket. And that might help. But for me, it's just not comfortable today. Let's go ahead and come into the second side. So for me, this is much more comfortable to have my foot next to my hip and not sitting on top of it. It's just too much pressure on my knee. And again, you can be using that bolster. You could have it vertically on your mat, so it's basically coming up to about your hips. And I will show a way when we go into our full saddle that you can use the bolster to raise the mat a little bit and may make saddle more accessible to you. And maybe after you've been there for a little bit, you find you can go a little further in. You lean back onto your hands. And maybe with time, you can begin to come down to your elbows. I'm not going to today. And then go ahead and straighten both legs. Take just a little break in staff pose before going into full saddle pose. Okay. And grab your bolster. Bend your legs. Bring the bolster vertically onto your mat and then straddle your bolster. So again, lots of sensation on the ankles, but because we're on the bolster, very similar to on the block, not as much sensation in the knees. Invitation to stay here if you'd like. And again, you can do this in half saddle. Personally, I'm not super fond of half that saddle. I didn't normally practice it when I was practicing saddle, and I don't think that would be coming into my practice. And as you sit here, you can begin to slowly come down, feeling more in your low back. more on your knees, and more on the tops of your thighs, your quads. And if you'd like, you can go all the way to your elbows. I'm not going to today. You can also grab a hold of your toes. It's another option. And that actually can feel quite nice. And again, this can be a lot on your neck as well. That is one option in full saddle. Go ahead and come on off your bolster. Turn the bolster so that it is horizontally across your mat, about 2/3 of the way up. And again, let's take a little break in staff pose. So if your body is not used to saddle pose and it does not feel accessible in your body, maybe you want to work on it, then I'm going to suggest that you definitely use props and be cautious. Don't come into 3 minutes if your body is screaming at you. If you can come into 90 seconds, that would be great. If you can only do a minute, it's a great start. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to sit onto my heels. Although I will admit my ankles are getting a bit tired, so one of the things you can do then is grab that blanket and put it under your ankles, and that helps a great deal. And then you begin to lean back and take a few breaths here. And maybe you want to come onto your elbows. A little closer. And hands perhaps on the soles of your feet. And then maybe you want to come up. Maybe it's a little too intense like it is for me. You can also have the bolster further back and come down slowly to those elbows off of the bolster and have your head onto. Maybe your head and your shoulders. And maybe spend a few minutes there. I'll let you in on a little secret. I forgot to press the record button. So this is the second time that I am recording this practice. And my body is telling me that is plenty for today. So from there, roll on over to one side. You can come up the same way. Oh, I'm going to face you. You can come up, just come up the same way you got down. But that can be pretty intense. And so it's easier to roll off your props or just roll onto your side on the mat and come into some well-earned Savasana, whichever way feels right in your body. Actually laying on your stomach with your forehead on your hands and your elbows out to your side can feel really nice after you've been putting a lot of pressure, well, not a lot of pressure, but you've putting some pressure onto your low back and your thighs as well. And that can let it completely release. And you can be on your back, of course, you can be on your side. And if it feels safe and comfortable to do so, go ahead and close your eyes. Allow any intention you set at the beginning of this practice to float into your mind. And let's go through a body scan, starting with your feet, your ankles, your lower legs, your knees, upper legs, hips, low back, upper back, both arms, shoulders, and your whole neck and head. And just relax into Savasana, allowing this practice to integrate into your body until you hear me speak again. Continue to relax in Shavasana for as long as you'd like. But if you need to move into the rest of your day, allow your breath to deepen. Feel your body being held by the earth. And saddle is associated with the earth element. Feel how stable and safe you feel. And then in your own way and in your own time, begin to transition from Shavasana to an easy seat. Eyes are still closed if that feels comfortable. Or softly unfocused. Your next inhale, bring the hands together at heart center, slightly bowing your head over your hands. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you be free from pain and suffering. And may you always listen to your body. Begin to blink your eyes open, taking the mat, the rest of the room, allowing your hands to fall into your lap. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that I've maybe unlocked saddle for you, maybe shown you some variations perhaps you weren't aware of. Please know that your body is different every day. And so the saddle pose variation that you'll be taking every day could be quite different as well. It could even be different side to side. It's very normal for our sides to be different. So please go ahead and click the like button if you enjoyed this little mini masterclass. Let more people find it. And if you'd like to practice with me again, go ahead and click subscribe and click the bell button. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm going to record a little vlog that will appear here. So if you just wait, that will play. I'm going to talk a little bit about why we don't warm up for this. And something else maybe. Have a wonderful rest of your day.